Hello. We're going to be looking at a disassembly and inspection of a 1992 Heritage Sawtail Classic motor. This is a 1340cc, the Evolution motor, or EVO. This motor had been in the shop, well I should say the bike was in the shop for 5 weeks having some work done on it. And then when it came from the shop, it locked up on the highway at 70 miles an hour. Okay, before we start the disassembly, I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. This is not exactly a technical how-to. I will have to do a few things that would be different in your typical teardown, disassembly, and rebuild, such as the motor's locked. I cannot crank the motor over by hand or turn the motor over by hand to put the pistons at top dead center. So I'm going to have to work around that. I will put a link to a very good video that I did find that really goes into a lot of detail and is in depth on disassembly and reassembly of the EVO motor. With that said, let me get started tearing the rocker boxes off. Take a 3/16 Allen wrench here. Find yourself a good manual when you start to do this. There's a lot of these head parts that, well, a lot of parts you're going to run into that you need to keep the parts together. And a lot of the parts like these rocker arm bolts and washers cannot just be replaced with any old washer that you may have laying around your shop. They are a hardened bolt or a hardened washer, and there's a fiber washer. Alright, now that I have those all loosened, I'm going to pull the covers off. Oh good, they came off separately. I'm going to keep these bolts and washers together. As I said, you don't want to lose those, and you don't want to replace those with just any old washer or bolt that you have. Set those to the side. Alright, now for removing the rockers and the rest of the rocker box, there's a certain pattern you want to follow this in. One source mentions loosening the 2 Allen bolts, then moving to the smaller, I think those are 7/16 bolts, and then moving in a star pattern to the 1/2" bolts. My manual says to start with the 7/16 bolts and then move to the Allens. I really don't think those matter as much in which one you do first, but the main thing is the 1/2". Leave those to last and follow the pattern to remove those. I'm taking the whole rocker assembly off as one unit. I don't see the sense in taking it clear apart, as that's not where my main issue or worries is right now. Alright, ready to take the heads off. Alright, all the tension is off the head bolts. I've loosened them up in the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tried to go as slow and easy as I could. Removing those, it's supposed to be 1/8 of a turn. First peaks on the inside of the motor. Well, let's look at the bottom first. Sorry about the lighting, but valves look okay. Okay, looking in on the top of the piston. See a little bit of junk down there on the top of the piston, but piston and cylinder looks pretty, yeah, there's a little scarring over there. Finish taking it apart and see what we have. Alright, got the piston up, or the cylinder up enough. Let's get a rag in here. That piston come down and smack against some studs inside there. Oh, got lost it. Alright, let's take a look at the jug. A little bit of scarring. Alright, let's get on to the other, the rear cylinder and get it all torn apart. Pull the tappets off here. Now this uses a 1/4 12-point socket. Okay, after removing the first tappet, see our first signs of damage in the motor. A lot of little pieces of metal. I don't know if you can see that or not. Just covered in metal shavings. Wow. Okay, now I'm going to take these. I don't have a cardboard box to set these in, so I'm going to put them into a bag so I can keep the parts together. And I'm going to label them front and rear tappet. Okay, now we'll pull the other side. Kind of a trick to taking these out after you loosen the bolt. Use a little paper clip bent in a U shape, stick it down in the center of the tappets. There you see a little hole, just put them there, kind of hold it, some pressure on it. Kind of, if you have a rubber mallet, hit it with a rubber mallet. Or I just hit it with my hand, knocked it loose. Took a little bit more pressure than I thought it would, but anyway, let me get this other side off. Alright, got the rear off. Already got all this unbolted. Come around the other side so I can hold that cam back. Okay, oh, I did not want to pull the cam, but I did. Cam came out with it. That's alright. Now, just set that in there loosely. Pulling this off, oh, I tore my gasket. You want to use a rubber mallet. I didn't have a rubber mallet, as this is not a how-to. I didn't show you my method. But, no, don't use these. It may be tempting, don't do it. You want to keep these surfaces nice. You want to make sure they seal back when you put it back together. So no, don't use those. You can see all the shavings in the bottom of the gear case cover. Let's start breaking the cases apart. There should be a washer here on the breather gear. I do not see that. Sometimes they say it will stick to your cover, the case, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I don't see it. There looks like there's some small scratches there. Might be something to look into. I'm wondering if these shavings are that washer. Wonder if it came out of place. Something I'll need to check into. A lot of metal shavings. Oh, look at that. A lot of metal shavings on the breather. Pull the camshaft and the little thrust washer that goes with it. Cam looks in pretty decent shape. Don't see any pitting. A lot of metal shavings, but let's get that oil pump off. Sorry about the shadows. This one we do not have to take out. Got an oil line to remove. Okay, let's go ahead and put these back just so I know where they went. Now that I've removed the oil pump, I have to remove the shaft and this gear. There's a little clip down there, so I have to get on that. So if you see videos taking this clip off and they show it being really easy, it's not. Pull the shaft out, pull the gear out. And I do have the key, didn't lose the key. It's still in there. If it dropped down in there, it's easy enough to get out. Okay. Time to turn the motor around, pull the stator off on the other side. If you had this on backwards, using it to turn your engine to top dead center, you can pull it off now. If you still had it this way, pull it off. It will be a pain to pull off. There's quite a drag on it with the magnetic pull. But as my engine was locked up, there was no need to turn it to top dead center. Okay, I'm going to remove the 4 Torx heads on the stator, the 2 screws there holding the keeper in for the electrical connection or the connection for the stator. Then I'll push that in and pull the stator out. Not real hard. We'll get that done, get it knocked out. Brand new stator. That's one of the reasons I had it in the shop before it locked up on me. Well, it went in for a starter and ended up being a stator, a rotor, and several other things by the time they were done. Okay, I want you to get a look at something. This is from the Harley shop. New stator was put on. I'll get it here so you can see it. The bolt is bent. bent, twisted, and stripped. That's from the Harley shop. Let me see if I can pull this other one here. See if we can get this other one out. It's pretty messed up. Mind you, this is from the shop. It cost me quite a pretty penny for the repairs. Okay, I'm going to use, I don't want to use anything sharp. There we go. Pull the stator off. Alright, we're going to split the cases here after we take the bolts out. Putting these bolts back into the proper position is very important. It helps to keep the cases aligned the way they were meant to be. So draw yourself out a little chart and put the bolts in as they go on the motor so that they can go back in that correct order. Okay, here we go. I'm going to move it forward off the boards. Get it up here. I may have to reposition the camera. Break the cases apart and see what we find. Heck of a time for the battery today, right at the suspenseful moment. But pretty obvious what's going on in here. Let me reposition that camera so I can see. Look at there. Crank busted clean in half. Set that down there. You know what? Let me pull the pinion out here. Let me get this side off. Take a better look at it. Okay, gear case side. A little bit of damage in there. It's pretty torn up. Yeah, I have a feeling that my lower end is not going to be usable at all. Well, since this is the drive side, it's locked up. Until I get this pressed out, I'm not going to know exactly what caused the motorcycle to lock up like it did. I didn't see anything on the other half of the case or the top end to warrant it locking up. As I'm down to this point, this side is still locked up, so I'm assuming the issue is in here. I'm going to have this pressed out, and hopefully then I can see what happened. Alright, we've got the flywheel pressed out of the primary side. Originally, this part of the flywheel, shut off, was jammed into the case, and we wanted to find out what was causing it to be jammed and maybe find out what locked the motor up. So while it was being pressed out, the gentleman moved the case to reposition it. In the process, dropped the case. It loosened the flywheel up where it would spin, so we don't know if there was just a piece of metal causing the flywheel to be jammed in there, or if it was the bearings. By the time we pressed it out, the bearings fell apart, so not exactly sure if that was the cause or not. But anyway, we've got it pressed out. The flywheels got some damage to them. I'm thinking that they can still be used. Change the pin out. There's a little bit of damage here on this side. I'm going to have to take it to a shop if I decide to do a rebuild to find out if they would throw it out of balance. So I'm Still unsure if the flywheels are going to be able to be used if I try a rebuild. But one thing I do know, the case is cracked from here to here and right here. I do not think this case is going to be usable. Yes, anything can be repaired if you throw enough money at it and you find the right guys. But do I want to trust my life with this? No, I don't think so. So a rebuild on the bottom end is probably out of the question. I'm going to reposition the camera, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things we found in the process of this teardown, what we think may have caused this, and what my options may be going forward on getting this bike running again. Alright, as to the root cause of what happened to this motor, this is purely guessing. As I mentioned, this is not a technical or how-to video. I am not a motorcycle mechanic or a trained motorcycle mechanic. Didn't find that a rod broke. I didn't see where any of the bearings spun. But again, I'm not a trained mechanic, but I did not see that. With the case being dropped as it was being pressed out, we may have lost some good information there. So we're just guessing that that wasn't the cause, that something happened before then, which then caused the motor to lock up, caused it to chew up metal, and that's what the damages we saw on the inside of the cases. What we think actually happened, sadly, was in that one part of the film that we lost. In pulling the back jug off, we pulled the rear jug, well, when we pulled the head off, it was full of oil. So what we're thinking happened is one of the seals leaked on the head, causing the oil to build up in the jug and causing a hydrolock, which locked the motor solid, which then led to the rest of the damage. Again, that's guesswork, but we're thinking it was a hydrolock. If any of you guys are a little bit more experienced, or if you saw something in the video that I missed, please point it out to me. Maybe something totally different happened and you caught it. But anyway, what are my options? As I mentioned, I don't think a rebuild, or at least on the lower end, is a good idea. I could buy a lower end, replace the top, but by the time I do everything on the top end, I've still got quite a bit of money into it. I can buy a used motor, throw in as is. Who knows how long that will last. I can also try buying a used motor and doing a rebuild. It's a thought. Or maybe time to grab an S&S and throw an S&S. Yeah, I think the S&S is the way I'm going to go. They have a V111, I think it's called right now. Pretty good motor. Just don't know if I want to throw that kind of money at this bike. They have an 80 that's supposed to be a pretty good motor as well. Pretty much a stock motor. I might throw that in here. We'll have to see and see how finances are, of course. But guys, if you see anything that I missed, have any comments or suggestions, please let me know. One thing I will add, if you're ever tooling down the highway, all of a sudden your bike locks up for any reason, grab that clutch. At the time, I was just trying to stay upright. I can't tell you whether I did or I didn't. Grab the clutch. Anyway, thanks for watching. Again, please leave any comments or suggestions. Thanks for watching.